Yeah, it's really interesting because that's what we're realizing. It is a construct. If we get lost in it, it seems real. Just like, and we
When you
understand
say it, you mean our reality, right?
a reality, yeah. Because it, and again, you go to a movie, you go to a play, you actually get caught up in it through the emotions in which the actors and the story is trying to draw out. So if you're watching a movie and you're laughing or you're crying, when you realize you're actually watching pixels straight ahead that are just brought upon by light and reflective that came from the projector behind it, but yet we're reacting to it. So the world we're living is nothing but pixels of photos and information coming in through light and lenses and reconstructed in our visual cortex in the back of our brain. And we're responding to it as if it was real, but then what is real? What is reality? And that's that's the interesting part. And he's saying, it doesn't really exist other than through the form of a conceptual understanding.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Well,
Yeah.
one of my biggest takeaways from that was how he was kind of explaining that. So everything that we experience is simply just an experience, okay? And then we, as kind of human beings living in this role, we take our experiences and we kind of tie them together mentally and create this narrative. And that's the narrative that we call the experience, or we call life, or we call ourselves, or we call somebody else. It is not them. It is not us. It is not anything but experience. And so to take an experience and then create a story about it is what we are all doing and calling it reality. I find that fascinating because that's exactly what this experience is.
Yeah.
It's not this, it's not that, it's both, it's neither, it's all of the above.
Yeah, and I guess in part and parcel is to create a narrative in order to have the feel, the fun. Like, every sport created a narrative in order to play it. Football, I use this analogy all the time, but it started out by basing a field on 100 yards by 50 yards and create a narrative in order to play the game. Without the narrative, there is no game. But I guess where we get caught up in hostilities, we don't think we can change the narrative. We don't think we can change the story, and that's where we can. And we start individually and then collectively it happens. But my narrative doesn't have to be the same as Mike's in order for me to survive on this planet. It really doesn't. And I think a lot of hostility people are generating is because they think there should only be one narrative.
Well, that's the reason media has such a stronghold on us and our society is it's hard for us to say that narrative is not right because that narrative is being broadcast and fed to millions and millions of us. And we all have something that's called this collective consciousness where, we feed off of, the ideas, experience of others, and that keeps this world, this reality spinning, if you will. And so you have these people who are like, okay, it's a recession, so everything must be, doom, gloom, depression, etc. I can't possibly fathom, finding success during a recession. That just doesn't happen. And this is a complete false narrative. In fact, like during recessions create the most millionaires. This is proven. This is something we know. But it's what narrative you allow yourself to, attach to. If you feel like you need to hold on to the narrative of the collective consciousness, that which is being, broadcasted, you don't. You don't need to buy into this narrative of that things are a certain way or they can or should be a certain way.
And that stuff has already been proven too, which is nice. That's why you've seen the narrative changing. And even like we talk about collective consciousness, I don't know. It's very difficult for me to tell it, even if the media has a hold on that. I think the media's hold is dismal or diminishing because we've gotten to a place where, like, even if you want to take like the economy, like in 1929 when the market crashed, and then we had the same setback like in 2008.
Yeah. 08?
Right?
You're talking about the housing crash?
Yeah, 08. And I heard it was about the same percentage, but the way people got through it was completely different. Like there weren't soup lines and stuff like that. So as we learn to change the narrative and people get more control over what they like, how to change, and I think that's what it is what I hear about a lot of intellects, and they're fighting for the people to actually take responsibility onto themselves. What it is take responsibility onto your own narrative rather than buying into somebody else's narrative, because the media, when I watch it, they're selling me fear. All right? Now, they're not forcing me to buy it.
No.
I have to
We
purchase
choose.
it. We choose, yeah. But if you're told this is the only thing you have to go by this, all of a sudden you buy into it. But then we realize, well, is there something else out there? And so all of a sudden it's like we're all learning how to become screenplay writers, directors, the main actor, coming to a realization we are screenplay writers, we are directors, and we're the main actor in our own show. And then how do we deliberate, or how do we actually associate with other storylines? And that's what we're finding out right now. And when science comes in and starts to explain it, like Deepak Chopra really can see both sides clearly, because he's actually studied both sides. I could come to a narrative based on my experiences and use words like quantum physics or biology and epigenetics and stuff like that. But the truth is, I don't really know the depths of those things. But I understand them at the ability in which I can understand them. But I do come to a realization that we're in a play. We're in a movie. And even if you understand a little bit about fractal geometry, fractal mathematics, and just fractals on their own, there's subsets of everything that happen this way. So when I'm watching a play and I get drawn into it, it's real. But all of a sudden you realize, oh, they're not on a real train. They're just moving themselves across the stage, and it looks like a train, but for a moment it felt like they were on a real train. And what is a real train anyway? It's just another set of pixels that we devise in this physical world, and we're here to play it out. And what is the purpose of life? I have no idea. But the experience I have, I'm actually learning to have more control over it, regardless of what's happening on the outside world, and I'm gaining perspective onto that. And someone like a Deepak Chopra is showing us, when you peel everything about, there is nothing other than the experience is the real, but the actual thing isn't real. And why? Because everything that we know to be physical isn't physical, and therefore it becomes fleeting. So what are we trying to hold on to?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Back to his main point. What is the universe?
Yeah.
Scientifically, nothing.
Yeah,
what is
just,
consciousness? Nothing.
It's energy is what it is. And energy, how do you grab it?
There's no matter. Yeah. There's no material physical form. And that's where, it's hard for us, at least from a Western perspective. We grow up thinking we're a physical body separate from everything around us, interacting with a world outside of us. And this could not be further from the truth. And this is where it takes a lot of peeling back these cultured, this cultured conditioning to see, oh my goodness, what is real?
Yeah.
What I determine is real is how I perceive and interact with real.
Yeah, but also too, like without the Eastern and Western culture, the Eastern culture would have nothing as well. So it's not about which culture is better. I'm like, it's kind of the yin and yang, the balance, this side and that side. Exactly. Because if you just had the spirit, what would be the physical experience? Mm-hmm. So, Deepak Chopra comes out of the East, and he's still talking about this stuff. So it's not like, it's a very interesting thing when we talk about East and West. It's like talking about yin and yang. Mm-hmm. You remove one, there isn't anything. Mm-hmm. You remove the crest of the wave, or the trough of the wave, there is no wave. If there's no wave, what isn't there? There isn't life experience. Yeah. So, as we're putting these things together, what will happen is I think the theme of humanity will start to change into what I'm not really certain. But the thing I look for or look towards is more collaboration rather than competition. Competition will still exist, but only under the umbrella of collaboration. Like sports are competitive, but you can't have a sport, and anyone would want to play the sport unless there was collaborative understanding what the rules and regulations are. And if anyone steps out, a yellow flag goes up and stops it. So we all agree upon that. And if someone does something wrong, no one's like, they might argue that it really didn't happen. But if someone deliberately does something wrong, even the person doesn't argue it. They bow down to it and they realize, okay, I tried to get away with it, but I couldn't. So in the physical world, there are these, outside of it, there are these laws and principles where if you try to step out of it, it won't work. You can maybe get away with it for a little bit. So there's empirical truth, and then there's these half-truths, and how I perceive the world is a half-truth. But the ability for me to perceive it onto itself, the fundamental facts, that there is the empirical truth.